One of the things I get asked is how can I use data to improve my own performance when I don't have a comparison lab, like a professional driver or a faster teammate? Today, I'm going to show you how you can look at your braking curves to better understand your braking performance without having to compare it directly over someone else. Now, I want to show you today, I'm going to show you two, so I'm comparing, which I say you don't need to, but just as a reference. What we're looking at is a pretty good lap with green and a okay lap in red. This is the brake trace, so I'm running over right now with the mouse. So this is brake pressure on the vertical axis and time on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis. And both laps were within a second of each other. So neither one was terrible. But very quickly, we can see the difference between a good brake zone and a poor brake zone. I'm going to walk you through that. So in this case, the green is pretty good, although I don't like to see these deviations. I see 100 psi deviations. I want to see 20 psi deviations. But overall, I see a nice curve. I see a peak pressure and then a digression, so we can start feeding wheel into it before trailing off the brakes over a relatively long period of time. So if I saw something, look at this, I think it's okay, but I want to work on my pressure modulation at threshold or as I'm starting to turn the car in. The red one, I see a brake, I see a slight release, I see another brake, I see a release, and I see a brake. So without even looking at the green, just if the red was just there, we know we're doing something wrong here. We want to see one brake application and then rolling off of it. So in this case, what's going to happen is the driver probably realized they overslowed with this excessive brake force, so they released the brake. But now they probably caused the car to push. When you're on the brakes, the car wants to turn, but then you release the brake too fast, all the weight comes off the front end and starts pushing. He has to slow down again to get the front end loaded to get turned in. So this is what's occurring. They're probably complaining about a slight understeer mid corner or even a corner exit, and this braking curve would cause that. Next brake zone. Something similar here, big spike, big loss. We're talking about 900 psi to 300 and then back to 1200. We don't want to see that. We want to see smooth application to maximum and then trailing off. Now, if we took this curve, we connected this dot down to here, that'd be a pretty darn good curve, but that's not what happened. So I look at this in more detail and I can see there was a throttle application. So if we go across right here, we can see there's a throttle application during this spike. So now we know we have a downshift problem. Now we know exactly what we need to work on. First braking zone was just a brake pressure issue and possibly misunderstanding the rolling speed of the car. Now we have a downshift issue, so a pedal, brain, hand connection issue. Because other than that, this curve is not terrible, although this release is a little rough. So already we can see a shifting issue. Now the last one is a little bit different. We're taking too long to get to maximum brake pressure. I want to see a ramp up maximum and then easing off of it, just like this green graph. This red one takes a while to get to peak. Let's ignore the lumpiness because we already talked about that. But what I want to see is this triangle. I want to see the triangle all the way pushed to where this line is nearly vertical and then it tapers off. This is like an isosceles, it's kind of even right and left. So those are three things we can look at in braking with just the red graph alone, and it's pretty obvious the issues. So why don't you look at your brake graph and see if you see smooth application of the brakes to maximum, a nice trail off, and then measure what the change in your brake pressure is throughout the braking zone and make sure it's smooth and maybe do some drills to work on that.